Alright, what's going on, guys? The internet has been on fire over the last week in anticipation of Black Myth Wukong, a new action-adventure game from the Chinese developer Game Science. Now, I've been playing this game pretty much non-stop all day, ever since it dropped, and it is really good. The combat is a blast, the world is beautiful, and although it does have some performance issues, I've been having a ton of fun. Granted, I'm not super far into the game yet, but I've been thoroughly enjoying what I have played. Now, I'm not here to talk about a review today. If you've been looking around online, then you may be aware that this game literally just made history. Now, if you go over to Steam and you look at the Steam charts, what you'll notice is that Black Myth Wukong has just reached a peak player count of 2,220,000 players at a time, which officially makes it the second highest concurrent player count of all time, falling only behind PUBG. That is absolutely insane, and it's hard to even put into words just how big of a deal that is. Not only is it crazy just from a numbers perspective, and we're going to break down exactly why this game has been so popular, but I think people are severely underestimating the impact this is about to have on the gaming industry as a whole and the games we get going forward. Because Black Myth Wukong is not just a good game, but it's significant for a number of reasons. So as we get into that today, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for all things Souls-like and From Software, and now let's break this down. So to understand exactly why Black Myth Wukong blew up the way that it did, I need to give you a bit of background. Now, as I stated, Black Myth Wukong is an action-adventure game that draws a lot of inspiration from Souls-likes, and I know the developers have stated it is not a Souls-like, and for the most part that's true, but the DNA is very much there. The core appeal of the gameplay is reaction-based combat with bombastic and difficult boss fights. Your primary method of avoiding damage is a dodge roll. You have stamina management. You restore health through a healing item that resets at checkpoints along with respawning all the enemies. So like I said, the DNA is there. Of course, there's a lot more to it, like magical abilities, character transformations, and more linear level design. But the reason I bring that up is because recently we've been going through a Souls-like craze. Ever since Elden Ring took the world by storm, the demand for Souls-like games has skyrocketed to the point where I think it's safe to say and consider that Souls-like is its own genre now. So the fact that Black Myth Wukong offers that same adrenaline that the Souls games do plays a role, but that's just a small part of it. And in fact, that might be the smallest reason that we're seeing this crazy amount of success. Now, the other major factor is actually the story of the game, because Black Myth Wukong is based on Journey to the West, one of the most classic tales from the 15th century that tells the story of Sun Wukong. Now, from a Western standpoint, at least here in America, for how famous this tale is, many of us aren't super familiar with it. For a lot of us, the only exposure we have at all to this story is through Goku, and I'd wager most of the fans of Dragon Ball Z don't know the origins. Again, at least for us over here. But that is not the case in the rest of the world, primarily in China where the story originated. And if you play through the game, one thing you'll notice is that it doesn't necessarily cater to the audience that's unfamiliar with the story. The game expects you to know who these characters are, since it picks up immediately after the book ends. Now, can you still enjoy it without having read Journey to the West? Yes, but you're going to miss out on a lot of the references and not have connections with some of the characters you encounter that you otherwise would. Now, I read about half of Journey to the West in preparation for this game, and I'm really glad I did, because I can understand why certain characters feel the way they do to the player, and I am getting some of the sleek references they're throwing here and there. There's still plenty I'm totally lost on. But why am I telling you all this? Well, let's look at some of these numbers. 88% of total ownership of Black Myth Wukong is coming straight from China. That is absolutely insane. That should immediately stop every single video game publisher in their tracks to start thinking about how can I tap into that market. Now that spawns a whole umbrella of thoughts to follow, but when you finally have a proper made video game telling a story that's so integral to their culture, it shows that results will follow. And we tend to get so fixated on the Western market without considering how big of a deal it is that the rest of the world exists. But the hype for Black Myth Wukong has not been solely in China. This game has been making waves for a while, ever since it was first revealed back in 2020, getting millions of views on their trailers, which were all entirely gameplay. I mean, the game was revealed with a 13-minute gameplay demo, and aside from that, there was no fancy marketing, no celebrity endorsements, very little influencer campaigns, and it's the studio's first major project. So literally all of the hype behind the game was purely by its own gameplay merit. That doesn't just happen out of nowhere, and that's why what we're going to see going forward is that this game is going to have a massive impact on game games coming out in the future. And I made a very similar video in regards to the success of Elden Ring's DLC, where we're starting to see a big shift in the market back to games that are simply good games. Much like Elden Ring, Black Myth Wukong does not have microtransactions, it's not a live service, it's a one-time buy, and you get the full journey. And people could tell that right from the jump. The passion that you see in this game and their communication of the journey to the West is immediately evident. The game communicates its culture more than anything else. And when you see a game communicating its themes genuinely like that, without having to entice the players through artificial means, you see the benefits that come with it far outweigh anything that might be disingenuous in nature. It's like the principles of marketing. You can try all the fancy campaigns you want, but word of mouth is always king. Which brings me to my next point, and we unfortunately have to talk about all the game journalists that campaign to get this game cancelled and entice players not to buy it as a boycott. Now, I'm not going to put it on screen because I don't want to perpetuate the narrative that's been pushed, even if it's mistranslated or not. I'm not going to be here to argue it, but the point I want to make is that once again, what we're seeing here is people don't care about all the extra stuff. People don't care if a member of the team made a vulgar comment 10 years ago. People don't care if there's some political differences involved with what they may or may not agree with. People don't care if a game checks diversity boxes. What people care about is if the game is good. You can have all that other stuff if you want, but is the game good? And that's really all it comes down to, because at the end of the day, there isn't anything out there, regardless of what you may see online or on Twitter, that talks louder than money does. And right now, we're clearly seeing it is shouting, with Black Myth Wukong completely demolishing any records a single player game has ever set. You know, we're seeing a big rise of Eastern developers. From Software is at the height of their game right now. We've seen hits out of Korea recently with Stellar Blade and Lies of P, and now China's rising up with Black Myth Wukong. Again, we're just seeing the pattern of a paradigm shift where in recent memory, games have been prioritizing how to nickel and dime their players more so than just making a fun game. But now these games that are purely good games are doing things that we didn't think were possible. Now, I'm not going to talk about industry layoffs, I'm not going to talk about studios getting shut down, but ultimately what this means for the future is that unless other studios follow in the footsteps of these games that are finding massive success off their own merit, then ultimately they're just going to die out. And at the end of the day, that's great news for us the players. It means we're going to get better games because they'll follow in the footsteps of Black Myth Wukong. So I am very happy to see this history being made right in front of us, with this debut game from a debut studio rising to numbers never seen before. You can miss me with all the bullcrap, keep everything unnecessary to yourself, but give me a good game. And that's what this says to the industry for the foreseeable future. Anyways though guys, that is going to do it for the video today. What do y'all think about Black Myth Wukong? Are you happy with the immense success this game is having? And how are you finding your playthrough of the game if you decided to pick it up? Either way though, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to leave a like on it and subscribe if you're new around here. I'm going to go play some more Wukong, and I will catch you in the next one.